All right, good morning or hi everyone. Hope you're doing well. Um, we're going back to the live videos for now. I don't have the queue up just yet. I gotta basically build that up. But I still want to make weekly videos about OP and tiny wins and stuff like that. So here we are. Today I'm gonna just share something briefly that I think most of the OP community actually already knows. So it is a bit of a known information thing. But on the off chance that you haven't heard this, or on the off chance that maybe you haven't thought of the implications of this, I'd love to share it. And basically, what I'm going to be sharing is the comparing the sleep animal in OP to the process of defragmentation, or more specifically, defragging your computer. Okay, so I'm going to start with this. I don't know. I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to remember this, if that makes sense. I don't know if you guys have had, what was it, like Windows 97 or what have you, but basically there was this image. I'll just stick to it here. This image that came with the defragmentation process, right? I think if you went to your settings, you could kind of select, okay, defrag my computer, and then it would like start this process, and I think it would show you this image until it was done, right? So this process, so the process of defragmentation is basically the computer's way of collecting files that have been scattered in the computer over time, right? So, as you know, for example, let's say you download something and you move it in a different folder and then you later delete that application. Technically, that, even though you delete an application, some of the saved files may still be around, right? And then let's say you download it again and then you reinstall it. So now you're fragmenting out, or you're scattering all of these different files in your computer. And what ends up happening is it makes it a lot slower, as you can imagine, because it's has less space and less RAM to work with. And yeah, it just takes longer to access stuff. So when you ask your computer to defragment itself, so to speak, basically what it's doing is it clears out all unnecessary files, and it also consolidates or organizes these files so that it's easier for the computer to access, which means that it's faster for you to do anything related to it, right? So it speeds up your computer and it creates more space. Now, for me, I see this as pretty much a really good analogy for the sleep animal. And in fact, it's actually not just me. I actually stole this, right? Dave Powers from the OP system actually used this analogy. It was actually one of my interviews with him, or my interview with him, where he talks about, hey, the sleep animal is this process of, getting all those files into one place, and that even that image, right, of like these scattered files coming together into one place, right? And so for me, I definitely stole that, and actually I wanted to expand on it, a little bit today, because I think he mentioned it in passing and then left. So I want to kind of just briefly explain it and then just kind of get into it. So let's start with the definitions, right? What the hell is sleep? Just in case we need a refresher here. Um, well, there we go. So sleep is a combination of things, right? So first you have to think of sleep as a combination of human needs working together, right? One decider and one observer. In this case, it would be the human need for of DI, right? Significance and identity, as well as the human need for OI, right? Certainty and revisiting known information, right? Seeing things as familiar, right? But then also you have the actual definition, or I mean, they have many definitions, but like the one that I use is from the beginner class, which says stopping and going over known information or learning via repetition, right? So that's the definition. So how exactly does this apply to this defrag? I mean, why would Dave say that? Why would I say that? Like, where's that coming from? To me, I think it's actually quite simple, right? So I'm going to actually use the human needs to explain this, because it's actually the easiest. So much in the same way that your computer is organizing or consolidating files that have once been scattered over time into one place to make them faster and easier to access. The same is true for whatever sleep does, right? So sleep is um, first of all, sleep is identifying things things it finds significant, basically, right? So it asks itself what it finds significant, and it clears out everything else, right? Just like your computer, it gets rid of the fluff. And then what the OI then does is it takes those significant things and it identifies where it's scattered, and it brings it all into one place so that it's easier for you to access, and it's you're able to move faster and have more space for lack of a better word, space of mind, right, or peace of mind, right. So I'll give you an example, right. So I see this a lot with saber sleeps, especially the double activated plays. Is they will ask themselves questions in such a way that it forces them to eliminate a lot of options, and it forces them to consolidate all their scattered thoughts or plans into one place, right? So I'll give you two examples. The first one is Tim Ferriss, right? So Tim Ferriss is I think he's double masculine, if I'm not mistaken, but he's definitely an INTJ, NITE, blast, sleep, consume. Okay, so he likes to sleep, and one thing he talks about a lot is he's very big on, first of all, he's very big on minimalism, right? So as you can imagine, that's a form of, defragmentation, getting rid of the fluff and organizing. But from a question asking standpoint, he's very big on what he says, measure twice and cut once. He never wants to put in effort unless he's absolutely sure, it's important and it's absolutely sure he has the bare minimum of what he needs, right? So, measure twice and cut once. Sorry, and then there's actually one more thing he says. He tries to find the minimum effective dose for something, right? Um, for example, when it comes to health, he has this book called The 4 Hour Body. He's peacocking the SE, in my opinion. He's like, look at all the stuff I did, but he talks a lot about, hey, what is the least amount of exercise I need to do, right? What's the least amount of exercise I need to do, and what are the fewest amounts of exercise types of exercise that I do, right? So he eliminated I think 99% of exercises that people normally do, right? Bench press, squats, push-ups, sit-ups. He got rid of 90% of that. And he said, hey, all I really need to do is kettlebell exercises, right? And he kind of rationalized it with his NI in his head. He's like, look, the kettlebell exercise is a compound movement, right? So it's working out multiple parts of the body. It works out the core, which is necessary for stability, right? And most exercises don't, if I'm not mistaken, they don't work out the core as well as kettlebell swings do. And it's also strength training. So it's like this, it's like a all in one exercise, if you could think of it. And so for him, with his NI and FI, right? So the FI is saying, okay, it's important for me to get the most out of an exercise, right? So he's trying to identify what's the highest priority in exercises. And then his NI is getting rid of all the SE options, right, of exercise, and he's narrowing it down to kettlebell exercises, which makes it way easier for him to access, right? So the next time he wants to work out, he's like, oh, all I need to do is find my kettlebell, done. And that's think about how much decision making time that saves, right? Compared to someone who's getting into fitness, who needs to find out, okay, I need to measure all these things, twice a week. For Tim, I mean, he does other exercises, of course, but he's defragmented his mind when it comes to exercises so that all he needs to do is think of a kettlebell exercise, and he's eliminated 99% of the time people normally spend trying to decide, right? And so that frees up time for him to do other stuff. The other example that I'll share with you is, I'm gonna use a playlist as well. So I'll use David Allen, right? So David Allen is also on the NI side. I probably need an SI side at some point, but I just know the NIs. So he is I forgot his modalities again, but he is a TI-NI, sleep, blast, consume. He's also play last, right? So he's still double activated on that sleep, so it's going to be easier to see, right? And David Allen, I mean, I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's made an entire system of questions that eliminates fluff, right? So he calls it the getting things done system. And basically he has 5 steps, or at least there's multiple parts of GTD, but the main part of GTD is he has these 5 steps, these 5 questions or phases of pretty much collapsing everything that's on your mind. He literally says that, get everything on your mind on a piece of paper or what have you. You get it all in one place, and then you have to really filter through every single item on that list according to a set of questions. Is this something that I need to do right now? Am I even the right person to do this right now? Is there any actions I can even take to do this, or is it more just a reference point, right? And then from there, it's okay, can you do it in 2 minutes or less? If so, just get it out the way. If not, okay, make it a project. So he has all these little steps. It's almost SI in a way. He has all these steps, but at the end of those steps is let's say you had 90 things on your mind. you've converted that down to, maybe like 70 to 80 next actions, and then you've probably filed away quite a bit of things, right? And so the beauty of his system is, by filtering all the clutter in your mind into something very specific and actionable, it eliminates decision making time as well, right? It clears, first of all, it clears, makes space in your psyche, much like defragmentation makes space in the mind. And he's asking these significant questions. In his case, it's TI. So, what are the significant, what are the significant things to do, for lack of better terms? And through that, he's collapsing and organizing the most important things pretty much conceptually through these 5 steps into projects or whatever. And now, fast forward, let's say you're done with that process, he can screw around for the rest of the day because 80% of those actions are probably going to take him 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So he no longer has to think about it, right? He actually also has a quote that really expresses this beautifully. He says, by the time you get into a scenario, it's too late to think about it, right? Because you have to react, right? So the best way to prepare for something is to think it through beforehand, right? So similar to that measure twice, cuts once, it's you have to think before you feel like you need to, right? I'm paraphrasing the hell out of this. So anyway, those are my examples. I know there's plenty of SI examples. I think Michael Gerber, who's on my quadrant, SIFI, is another good example. I just don't remember his specific questions that he uses, but that's kind of another example maybe to look into. And then just playlists, right? Those are the best examples. So how do you implement this, right? How do I implement this? I mean, for me, I literally think about the defragmentation process, and I recently have just been asking myself a series of questions. First, quite transparently, I've stolen the questions from Save or Sleep people. They asked us some really good questions. So I just steal them, right? So for example, one great question from Tim Ferriss is if you were forced to only work 2 hours on your business or your job, what would you spend that 2 hours on, right? If you had to stop, right? And what that does, as you can imagine, is it forces you to find the significant aspects of your job, and you have to eliminate the rest. So there's that defragmenting of clearing out the clutter. And then also, I mean, in this case, it's NI, right? But it's like he's forcing you to identify these categories of your business that you should be focusing on for that day. Because if you only have 2 hours, you can't do everything, obviously. So that's one really good example of a question I ask myself to help me defragment or sleep process in this way. So that's kind of one thing I do. And then from there, I basically leverage the human needs and my image, even this image of my mind of defragmenting, right? So one thing I'll ask myself is there a way for me to organize the most important parts of, let's say this topic, or let's say the thing I'm working on, right? Is there a way for me to make it easier to access, right? So much like defragmenting, I do that. As well as one thing that I ask myself is, um, I don't know how else to word it. I mean, it's kind of the same question but reversed. It's like, okay, where am I scattered when it comes to this? Basically, where is my mind scattered when it comes to this? I'm SI. So my SI is like, where's my physical environment scattered when it comes to, let's say, my job, or going outside or whatever, like literally, and so on and so forth. Because by identifying these areas of scatteredness or fragmentation, it gives me an eye or an awareness to see, okay, let me see how I can bring them into one place that is easier for me to access, right? So that's about it. I know this is not necessarily like new information, so sorry, especially for an EP, I'm not changing the world here. But I think this analogy is still very meaningful, and I think that the implications of the analogy are also just as meaningful. So it's one of those things. I don't have to info dom it. Definitely, I would recommend you view sleep processing at least partially as that defragmentation process that your computer does. I think it's a good image that may help you, especially if you're demon sleep. And then also, yeah, I would definitely recommend finding ways that work for you, obviously, but finding ways for you to more clearly and more quickly access the things that are most important to you, whether that be thoughts, plans, resources, or anything related to that, concepts, maybe NI, or anything along those lines, right? So that's about it. I'm still, hope you guys are doing well. I'm probably gonna still be doing lives for a little while, just because I'm trying to juggle a lot of stuff. But great to see you guys. Hope you guys are having a great day, and I will see you in the next video that I make. Take care.